All right, this is video 2. In this video, we're going to do some. Man, I hope y'all don't make any comments about my YouTube. I don't look very polished this morning. Let's do some workbook exercises in this video. You guys have looked at your vocabulary. Let me read through that with you real quickly. Make sure you know how to pronounce all this. Allah, apa, or apa, dia, emi, ek, hemera, ain, thalassa, thanatos, hina, Ioannis, lego, meta, oikia, oikos, aklos, parabole, pros, and hupa. That's your vocabulary for this week. Remember to learn for those prepositions that have more than one potential meaning. Remember to memorize the different meanings of those prepositions depending on the case that the object is in. All right, let's look at parsing. Exercise 8, begin on page 19. All right, let's do number 1 together. Number 1 is hemera. 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 Notice that has an iota subscript on the final alpha. And so by now you've memorized hemera as part of your vocabulary practice. You remember that this is a first declension feminine noun ending in alpha, and that iota subscript is a dead giveaway. Boom! When you see that iota subscript, you should just light up. So good. Made it so easy. Greek so easy. So you know right away that's a dative. And you remember from your endings that in the first declension paradigm, the dative singular ending is an iota. But oftentimes that iota will become a subscript under the final vowel, and that's what's happening here. So parsing it now, you would say this is a dative singular feminine from hemera, and the inflected meaning might be something like to the day. Okay, let's do number 2. Thalassan, thalassan. So again, you're looking at vocabulary. Let's assume you don't know this vocabulary. Let's just say, hey, I don't even know this word. How do I parse it? Well, you get a good guess. You can start by saying, I bet this is a feminine noun or first declension noun because it has an alpha ending. Can't be 100% positive, but probably right that this is a first declension feminine noun because it has that alpha ending. Okay? So if that's true, then you go through your paradigm. What in my first declension nouns takes a nu as its inflected ending? You would say, oh, the accusative singular takes a nu. I suppose you might say, well, this could be no, this is the only thing it could potentially be, right? That accusative ending. So you go down the line, okay, well, it's accusative, it's got to be singular, and you're kind of guessing at this point, it's probably right, it's going to be feminine. And from thalassa, it is feminine, in fact, and you remember your vocabulary because you're good students and you've memorized everything. And so that's thalassa, excuse me, meaning sea or lake. So the lexical form is thalassa. The inflected meaning is just sea. All right, let's do number 5. We already did David. Let's do number 8. Uranon, uranon. All right. So without looking at it, you should know by now that omega nu ending is going to be genitive plural. And I'm a little rusty here, but I believe it's true, isn't it, that across the second, first, and first declensions for masculine, feminine, and neuter, in your plural genitive forms, they're all going to have that omega nu. So that's a dead giveaway. That is going to be genitive plural. Now you know from your vocabulary, that's from uranos, which is a masculine noun. So its lexical form is uranos, and its inflected meaning here in this case is something like of the heavens, plural genitive form. All right, let's do the warm-up exercises next. Let's look at, let's do gamma. That'd be a good one. Meta tu ioanu. Meta tu ioanu. Okay, so you see that that's a prepositional phrase, begins with meta, and meta is one of those prepositional words, one of those prepositions that can, man, I'm just a mess. I put some lotion on my hands. Can y'all see that? My hands are just tore up. I've been doing a bunch of stuff outside, and I put some lotion on my hands because it hurts my hand. I'm getting so old, it hurts my hands to open them up because it stretches that skin. Oh, terrible. So I put some lotion on it, and then I just rubbed it in my beard. Anyway. So, meta tu ioanu. So again, meta is one of those prepositions that can take various meanings depending on the case of its object. And in this case, it's a genitive. So you will have memorized that meta with a genitive means with. So this is a genitive. In fact, tu ioanu is inflected in the genitive case. So this would be with John. Ioanu is from Ioannis, or Ioannis, meaning John. Ioannes, excuse me. All right, let's do letter zeta. Zeoi este. Theoi este. Theoi. Oh, baby. It gave you an omicron iota. You know right away that's a nominative plural. That's a nominative plural masculine form from theos, meaning gods. Gods. Este is from ami, isn't it? And este, you're learning now the pattern for ami verbs. And you will have known, or at least practiced by now, that este is a second plural from ami. So a second person plural from ami would be you are. So, right? So the forms are again I, you singular, he, she, it, and then we, then you, all, or I might say y'all, and they. First person singular, second person singular, third person singular. First person plural, second person plural, third person plural. So the pattern would be I am, that would be a me. Then you are, meaning you singular. You are would be a. And then he, she, it is would be esti or estin. Okay? Then first person plural, we. We are would be esmen. Okay, second person plural, y'all are would be este. And then third person plural, they are would be asen. Okay? So this is este. So you might say, okay, now we have this nominative plural masculine form for theoi, which means gods. And it's in the nominative case. You might say, that's the subject. So this sentence you might say would be translated, gods are. But that wouldn't work, would it? Because, or you might translate it something like, they are gods. But that wouldn't work, would it? Because they are, that would be translating, that would mean that the verb would have to be in the third person plural. And the third person plural verb for ami is asen, isn't it? You can find these in your book on page 72. So if you want to translate this to say they are gods, then it'd have to be theoi asen. That'd be they are gods. But this is este, which is second person plural. Translated that would be you or y'all are gods. Now you're saying, well, but Ben, the theoi is in the nominative case. And I thought nominative case words had to be the subject of the sentence. And I would say you're usually right. But remember, a me is a linking verb. And when a me is involved, it links two things, usually in the nominative case. Right? So the subject and what's called the predicate nominative will both be in the nominative case. Okay, so now you might look at the same sentence and say, well, where is the subject? Why, if theoi is a predicate nominative, then where is the subject? There's no explicit subject in the sentence, and I'd say you're exactly right. Greek doesn't have to always have an explicit subject for one to be present in the sentence. What's the subject of this sentence? The subject of this sentence is implied, and the implied subject is y'all. Y'all are gods. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's move on to do some translation. Let's do number 1 on page 20. Erkatai eis oikon. Erkatai eis oikon. All right, so he gives you the translation for erkatai, he, she, or it comes. Okay, then you have this prepositional phrase, right? So double underline erkatai, that's your verb. Then you have a prepositional phrase, eis oikon. Eis oikon. So what I do is I make, let's see if you can see this. Where do you go? I have underlined and put in parentheses the prepositional phrase. That helps me kind of bracket it off in my mind. Okay, so now you've learned eis now. Eis is not that tricky of a preposition that doesn't take a lot of different meanings. Usually just means into. And so now you're ready to translate. And eis usually also takes the accusative, okay? So translated, this would be he, she, or it comes into the house. Into the house. Let's do number 2. Ex eilthen, ex autou. Ex eilthen, ex autou. All right, now it gives you a note about ex there. So take it for what it's worth. But ex eilthen means he, she, or it came out. He, she, or it came out. And then ek, or ex autou. From what? He came out from what? He came out from it. He, she, or it came out from him, or from it. I think that's pretty straightforward. I'm trying to make sense of the note that he gave. That's preposition following the compound verb. Sure what he means exactly. Anyway, he came out from him. He came out from it. Okay, let's look at number 3. Doxon para anthropon ou lambano. Doxon para anthropon ou lambano. Okay? If you're double underlining your verb, you go to lambano. And that means I receive. Notice the ou right in front of the verb, though. That's a negating word, a negative word. It just simply means not. So whatever the verb means, it does not mean that. So translation would be, I do not receive, or I receive not. I receive not what? Well, doxon, right, is in the accusative case. The accusative case is often the direct object case of Greek verbs. So I do not receive doxon. You remember what doxa means. Doxa means glory. I do not receive glory, accusative case, direct object of the verb. So that's what he does not receive. I do not receive glory, what? Para anthropon. Para anthropon. I do not receive glory, then you know your vocabulary from prepositions. Para anthropon. I do not receive glory, para with a genitive here. It's a genitive plural. I do not receive glory, what? From men, right? From men. Let me just double check that. rusty on my prepositional meanings. That's right. I did not receive glory from men. I'm going to check one more thing here before we move on. Make sure. Yeah, okay. All right, now let's look at the additional sentences. Let's start on number 11. Ha Ioannis kai ha Petros eisen metatu Iesu into oikotu kuriou. All right, subject of this sentence ought to be very straightforward for you. Right, it's a compound subject. There's just like in English we could say Jim and Jack went to the store. Well, what's the subject of that sentence? Jim and Jack. It's a compound subject. So here, John and Peter. What are they doing? John and Peter, eisen. Third person plural from me. Eisen. John and Peter and John and Peter. John and Peter are doing what? They are meta tu Iesu into oikotu kuriou. They are meta plus the genitive with Jesus in takes the dative, in the house. To oiko is a dative in the dative case. They are with Jesus in the house to kuriou. Genitive is often the possessive case. They're in the house of the Lord. John and Peter are with Jesus in the Lord's house, or in the house of the Lord. Let's do number 12. Ahoi akloi eperutheson proston Iesun ap tes thalases tes Galileas. Okay, let's begin. Let's find the verb first, right? Eperutheson. He tells you what that means. It's the verb there. They traveled. Who traveled? Well, we get a subject, don't we? In the nominative case, hoi akloi. You know what that means by now. You've learned those words, the crowd or the group. The crowd traveled. They traveled where? They traveled pros toniesun. They traveled pros. You think pros means to, towards, or with the accusative case. They traveled with, probably. They traveled with Jesus. Apotes thalases tes Galileas. What's that mean? Apo, another preposition with a prepositional phrase, two things in the genitive. They traveled from the sea. From the sea. The reason tes thalases is in the genitive is because apo takes the genitive. That's why. So they traveled from the sea. What sea? Tes Galileas is modifying thalases. It's the Sea of Galilee. The sea that is known as Galilee, or the sea that belongs to Galilee, or something like that. Translated the Sea of Galilee. All right, let's look at number 13. Kai epen hatheos to noe kai tois huiois autu metatu. All right, start with our verb, epen. You've learned or seen that verb before. Epen means said, he, she, or it said. In this case, you do have an explicit subject in the nominative case. What is that? It's ha. There's the nominative article. Ha theos. So God said, he said something, but first he said it to someone. Notice to no eh. That to is in the dative singular case. The dative singular there in the direct is the direct object case. The indirect object case. So God said to Noah, and we have more datives. So again, we have a compound indirect objects. He said something to Noah, and he said it to who? He said to the sons. Tois huiois. That's the dative plural. Dative plural of huios. So it's masculine dative plural noun. He said it to Noah, and he said it to the sons of him. So autu, being a genitive, is a possessive case. So he said it to Noah, and he said it to his sons, or to the sons of him. Metatu, he said to the sons, metatu, met with the genitive, we mean with. He said, okay, so put it all together. God said to Noah and to his sons with him. That's how you translate that phrase. So he said it to Noah and to the sons who were with him. That's kind of how we would render it in more readable English. 401, have a chance to ask questions, and it's a lot, but hopefully that's helpful. So do your good work on the exercises. If you're getting confused, you probably need to parse more. The more you parse, the better off you'll be, because you'll be able to quickly link these things together. And I promise you, your translations may sound clunky right now, but as long as you are connecting the dots between what a genitive is doing, what an accusative is doing, and datives and so on, once you're putting all those things together, you're memorizing your vocabulary, I promise you it will get better and easier. So hang in there, practice, practice, practice. Don't just do the part. If you're having trouble with parsing, then don't just do the parsing exercises on page 19. If you're having trouble with parsing, you need to pick random words out that you can't find the answers for, okay? And you need to pick random words out from the rest of this chapter and to say, okay, I'm going to pick, what's one? I'm going to pick agape. And I know that agape is one we've parsed before, but I'm going to do all the parsing. I'm going to do, all the cases and all the parsing. So you could do that with your parsing words. You could say, okay, I know how to do thanato, but I know how to do the form they listed, but now let's do all the forms for thanatos. And that's how you get better. You just practice, and then you're able to start gluing things together, and it comes together. So we're starting to put a lot of pieces together now, so it's a good idea for you to practice and get better and better, so you don't get too lost. So hang in there, and I'll provide another video, maybe tomorrow, giving you some details on what the quiz will be about. All right, good to talk to you.